All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about a communication style that gets a really bad rap, one that can lead to you being labeled in ways that, well, they just don't feel right at all. So let's get into it.
So, have you ever heard this? You're so secretive. You're really guarded. Or my personal favorite, you're just hard to get to know. It feels isolating, doesn't it? It can make you second-guess yourself, like you're doing something wrong just by being you. But what if that whole label is completely missing the point?
And this is the central idea, the big reframe we're exploring. Just let that sink in for a second. It completely flips the script. It takes you from having what feels like a passive flaw, being secretive, and transforms it into an active intelligence skill, being careful. And that small change in perspective, it's everything. Okay, so before we can really embrace careful as a strength, we've got to tear down the old label, right? The secretive one. Why do people even jump to that conclusion? Well, it usually comes down to this concept of emotional withholding.
You know, we live in a world that's all about sharing everything, all the time. Oversharing is kind of the norm. So, if you choose not to broadcast every single thought and feeling, people can see that as a flaw. They call it emotional withholding, and they think it means you don't trust them. But what's actually going on is so much more strategic and thoughtful than that.
All right, enough with that negative framing. Let's build a new one, together. Let's stop thinking of this as some kind of defect and start seeing it for what it is, a really sophisticated strategy for building connections that actually last.
Take a look at this. It lays it all out. On one side, you've got secretive. That's passive, right? It's usually a reaction that's based in fear, and yeah, it pushes people away. But look at the other side. Careful. That's an active skill. It's not based on fear, it's based on wisdom, on things you've learned, and its goal isn't to create distance, it's to build trust that's real and sustainable.
So, what's the official name for this skill of being careful? Well, in psychology, it's called selective vulnerability. And believe me, it is the engine that makes this entire approach work.
I want you to really focus on those two words, conscious and deliberate. This isn't an accident. It's not you just clamming up. It's you making an intentional choice about what you share, who has earned the right to hear it, and when the time feels right. You see, the goal isn't to just hand over your trust on a silver platter. It's to build it, brick by brick. And this right here is the difference in a nutshell. Emotional withholding, that's you reacting, trying to avoid a connection, probably because you're scared. Selective vulnerability, that's you being proactive. It's a conscious choice to build a connection, but to do it in a way that feels safe. One comes from fear, the other comes from wisdom. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you put selective vulnerability into practice in the real world? Well, there's a tool for that, and it's called trust calibration. It's how you measure and adjust everything in real time.
I love this idea. See, trust isn't like a light switch. It's not just on or off. It's more like a volume dial. And trust calibration is the act of constantly checking and adjusting that dial. You're not just listening to their words, you're watching their actions. Over time, are they consistent? How they respond is the data you use to decide whether to turn that dial up or down.
So how does this dial turning actually work? It's a pretty simple four-step process. First, you just watch. You observe. Are their actions matching their words? Are they reliable? Step 2, you run a little test. You share something small, something low stakes. Now step 3 is the most important part. You assess their response. Did they listen? Did they handle that information with care? And based on that, you move to step 4. You adjust the trust dial accordingly. Simple as that.
Now, none of this works, selective vulnerability, trust calibration, none of it, without one final crucial piece of the puzzle, boundaries. They are the absolute foundation that this entire structure is built on.
So what are emotional boundaries, really? The best way to think about them is like a fence around your property. It's not a giant wall designed to keep everyone out forever. It's a fence with a gate, and you have the key. You get to decide who comes in, how far they get to come, and when it's time for them to go. It's all about protecting your own energy and peace.
So why go through all this trouble? What's the reward for being so careful? Well, the benefits are huge. We're not talking about shallow connections. We're talking about building ones that are actually deep and real. You protect your own energy, you avoid that awful feeling of regret after you've overshared, and you build trust that's actually genuine. Most importantly, you are in control of your own story.
So here's what I really want you to walk away with. Being careful is not a weakness.
It is the very architecture of a strong, real relationship. The next time someone calls you guarded or secretive, you can smile to yourself and think, no, I'm an architect. You're carefully designing something that's built to last. And so I'll leave you with this question to think about. How can you start shifting that feeling of being secretive to feeling empowered by being careful? What does that architecture look like for you in your life with your relationships? Think about it.